Oh, thank you very much for having me, Nicole.
So tell us, why sexologist? What inspired you to get into this field?
I think seeing that there was a need. When I was a teenager, I went through a lot of negative teen sexual experiences, and at around age 19, I was like, there has to be more, and so I got myself a library card and started reading everything I possibly could about sex, because before that, I relied on porn, books, and movies to educate me, and it just led me down a really negative path. And at that time, I was like, wow, there's so much good information out there, but it's so boring. It's so dry. Like, sex ed is, in essence, bad sex. It's slow, predictable, dry. It's just not exciting at all. And I was like, I wonder if there is a way to make sex education interesting and relatable, especially for young people. So I just really saw that there was a need for someone like myself.
That sounds awesome. So besides being a sexologist, we are aware that you're multifaceted. Can you tell us a little bit more about the other hats you wear?
I would probably say, I mean, at this point in my life, like 90% of my life is talking about sex and relationships. Like everybody else, I went through a phase of paying my way through school. So when I went to school, I did photography to make sure that I was able to keep up with my loans and my bills. And that's really it. I talk about sex in a lot of different ways, whether it be on YouTube or in media, or I've written a book. But by and large, most of my time is spent talking about sex and relationships.
And we thank you for that. So we love the hashtag #HowToLoveMe. What were some of your favorite responses?
Oh man, I love the really honest ones when people were like, stroke my ego, tell me that my booty is growing bigger, choose me over anybody else. Like, I think the How to Love Me ones, a lot of them were really beautiful, and like, be trusting, be loving, look out for yourself, follow your dreams. But sometimes the root of really what we need of how to be loved doesn't sound that hallmarky. It is really authentic things like, like when I get home, drop whatever you're doing and run to the door. That means like a lot to me, because when I grew up, that's what we did for my parents. So I love the ones that were not completely sane sounding, but were just really, really honest.
I love that. So in society, oftentimes when a woman is viewed as sexual or beautiful, they're not considered professional. What is your opinion on this?
I think there's a lot of, you have to really look at why there's such an obsession with controlling female sexuality, and it's not as if it's cultural or even a new age thing. It's been a constant and a consistent. And the root of that comes from, when we control women's sexuality, we control women, one, and number two, like, we're able to ensure that the child that we're raising is our own. A woman who is sexually liberated brings about a lot of fears, insecurities, and of course the competition factor. When a woman only is devoted to us and our sexuality, then we don't feel inadequate in any way. So I would look at the root of where that comes from. It's the fear of a liberated sexual woman, and fear responses are never the right responses. So I often try to just put myself in that person's shoes and say, okay, that's where that's coming from. That doesn't apply to me, or that doesn't ring true for me, so I'm not going to live my life by those standards, or I'm not going to live my life based on someone else's fear.
So on that note, what are your tips for being an incredibly professional, sensual boss woman?
I think you have to really be honest. Communication is not what you say, it's what you want to accomplish, or good communication, I should say. And that's a big part of it as well, too. So in your sexuality, I'm in a job, for example, where sexual expression is encouraged, obviously. There's no drawbacks, there's no game to be played. The more comfortable I feel in my skin, the better the world responds to me. But I acknowledge the fact that that's not everyone's job in everyone's life. And so compartmentalization can be a really healthy thing for people, where it's like, I have one area of my life that I completely express myself, because I understand that people who engage with me in that area are not afraid and are actually inspired by that openness. But then this other area of my life, you know what I mean? Like, I might play the game a little bit. So I do think it's a matter of really looking at what you want to accomplish, and then understanding how sexuality can and cannot be a helpful part in that. I do think everyone needs to have one place in their life that's completely free of other people's opinions, completely free of shame, guilt, fear. It's just a space for you. But whether that space is a private space in your bedroom, or it's a public space where you go to a nude beach, is up to you. But I do believe in compartmentalization, because not everybody's a sexologist, and I understand that.
Okay, great. So what would you recommend for someone who dislikes the way they're being sexually pursued by others?
Doesn't like or does like?
who doesn't like the way they're being sexually perceived. For example, if a woman's viewed as being extremely sexy or if a woman's viewed as being extremely cute, what's a way for her to change this perception?
I think you have to really assess what you want changed. Do you want the response to change, or do you want the way that you manage that response to change? And I was having this discussion with a girl who was deeply religious and had a very sensual, sexy body, and she felt that men were often approaching her in a very sexual way, and she felt very conflicted. And I was like, well, you don't know. Maybe your sexuality or your body is a way to draw people in to start a conversation. And if you believe in salvation, or you believe that, God doesn't make mistakes, and perhaps it's a part of yourself that you have to embrace and learn to manage that response you get from people. Where on the flip side, of course, there are things you could do if you feel like you're getting a response you don't want. You can change your appearance or change the way that you address people. But oftentimes, I don't think that's the answer. I think the answer really is, okay, how do I manage this versus how do I stop this? And it's really bizarre. Like, people always assume that based on my job, I get all these advances or people talk to me crazy. I find the exact opposite. The question I get asked the most, if anything, is, do many people find you intimidating, or how do people approach you at all? So I think that we have this fear that the more sexual that we are, the more that we're inviting trouble. But I don't think that at all. I think we invite what we choose to invite.
Great. So what do you think are some of the biggest misgivings the millennial generation has towards sex, love, and relationships?
I would say there's still this idea. There's still these old-time ideas that have to go out the window. So me, for example, I'm a millennial. I've never had a full-time job in my life. And I don't say that with pride. That's just because the job market that I entered into when I finished school just didn't really have a space for me. And so as a result, I started to make my own way, and now I'm at a place where that's okay. But I don't own a house. I don't have kids yet. I'm not married. There's a lot of things that are non-traditional about my life, and they're not necessarily because I'm a rebel, but it's just I'm adapting to the environment. And I find that a lot of millennials who are going through the same thing still hold very traditional ideals of what love, what sex, and what relationships are supposed to be, wherein that, you don't have to hold that same guilt before. And just because you met somebody in college doesn't mean you're supposed to be with them forever. And the global market says, you guys are all about that, is like, capitalization, everybody else takes advantage of that. So they're not saying, oh, this is the only place selling milk, that's where I have to buy it regardless of the price. They're like, no, that price isn't good. I want something better for myself. And people don't do that enough in dating, wherein that they accept a lot of crap. They place themselves in relationships that don't honor them, and they stay in those repeat cycles without realizing, well, I don't have to be here. It's not like this is one of 5 people I could love and I can connect with. So I would like to see more millennial people really embracing what works for them, really distancing themselves from the ideal of traditional. And I don't mind traditional as long as it's a choice. I don't think traditional as a given makes sense. If you know yourself and you know what you want, and you're like, yeah, traditional values actually really support me, then great, rather than just adopting it just because. So I want to see them really get to know themselves, decide what works best for them, and be really aggressive and non-apologetic about pursuing their best sex, love, and relationship life.
I love that. On the flip side, what are some of the best ideas that the millennial generation has towards the ideas of love, sex, and relationships?
They have so many. Oh, it's incredible. Like, I talk to so many young people where I'm like, you're 21 years old and you're asking yourself about binders, and you're questioning your gender. You're thinking about fetish. You're joining support groups for each other. People who, for example, who are infected with a sexually transmitted infection or disease, they have dating apps that are just for them. So I think, again, the idea of you're not a freak, you're not abnormal, you're not canceled out from being loved or from loving others. There are others out there like you, and take a look, go to this website. So I think millennials have done a really, really beautiful job of having a larger voice for the less voiced population. And a lot of people who before would just feel like, well, I guess I can't be loved, now have a place to go to say, no, I can. So I think it's awesome. I think that they are a lot more open when it comes to toys, when it comes to reciprocal sexual pleasure, although statistically the orgasm gap is still pretty high. But I do feel like there's more of an acceptance towards, okay, maybe I don't fit in the normal box, and maybe that's okay too.
So people are letting their freak flags fly a little bit more. Is what
yeah, I do think that. And I think it's distancing yourself from that idea even that I'm a freak, because it's it's not everybody, most people don't fit into the standard vanilla sex, heterosexual, heteronormative, married by 28, kids by 30 recipe that we had designed before. And when people are starting to realize that and not feel bad that they don't fit that mold either.
Exactly. So what are some of the biggest sexual stereotypes that we need to have people stop believing?
I mean, the stereotypes, I definitely think the porn stereotypes, that the way that porn depicts sex is realistic. I think what was really great is we had this, when I was growing up, wrestling was like a problem where people were getting hurt because kids at home were trying it. And then they had to educate kids like, no, this is not real life. You can't do the same things you see on wrestling and to your friends and expect them to be okay. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to sex. With the oversaturation and the easy access to pornography, a lot of people look at that as sex ed, and it's not. It's exaggerated entertainment for a particular group of the population. It's mostly made for men. It's like a $90 billion industry for men and almost non-existent for women. And when you have that type of slant, then a lot of the values and the way that sex is being viewed, again, isn't equal opportunity. So I think that there's a lot of miseducation around pornography that has to change. And I'd probably say, that we're still having a lot of awakenings when it comes to the LGBTQT plus community. And a lot of people get frustrated with that because there's always something new to learn. But there's absolutely a big percentage of the population that has existed since the beginning of time whose stories we've ignored, whose stories we have pushed down. And now they're starting to come to the top. It can feel very overwhelming, but that's only because it's always been there but never been talked about. So I think we definitely have a lot of education to do around that community, myself included. I have a lot of education to do around that community.
I love that. So regarding underrepresented people, what are some of the things that we can do as a society to stop making negative stereotypes regarding race?
I think you have to listen. It's a big portion of it. Don't assume that you know it all. Don't bring your perspective or your experiences into unrelated circumstances or situations. Ask questions, but respect someone's comfort level. And then, of course, above all else, go on the internet and look. You don't have to bombard every person that you meet who has a different sexual identity with a bunch of intrusive questions. Like, if you're really that curious, go online and look it up. So I just think it's a matter of expanding our desire to learn beyond what directly impacts us. Just trying to okay, what is this person's experience like, so that when I communicate with them, I'm being sensitive to their needs. So it's just, I think curiosity is probably the most valuable tool when it comes to sexual equality.
I love that, but in terms, I was referring to the negative sexual stereotypes such as Black men are over-endowed or Asian men are under-endowed. What would you say about that?
Yeah, and I mean, those still exist. According to a study, Asian men are the least desired when it comes to dating apps, and Black women, on the contrary, are the least desired when it comes to dating apps. And that, again, comes from a lot of the stereotypes that we have. And all you can do, again, is just be curious and open to other people's different experiences. The same sort of rules apply, where in that you can't make assumptions that every person is this way. And those kind of stereotypes hurt both people. It hurts the Black man who doesn't have an 8-inch penis, and it hurts the Asian man maybe who does. And so I think that all in all, it's and as we start to share more stories about sex and we start to hear more about it, we realize that there's less truth to those stereotypes and those rumors, and that they don't help anybody to receive more love, more sex, whether you are the beneficiary or you are on the negative side of the stereotype. So, I mean, I don't often hear people talk about them as much other than in jokes, but at the end of the day, you have to know that there's just no truth to them. And studies have shown over time there is no truth to them.
Awesome. So what are some of the best tips you would give for someone exploring his or her sexuality?
I would feel like the main goal should be, okay, how good can I feel? Rather than having this idea I want to be a freak, or I want to be sexually liberated, or I want to have 10 orgasms, if you just position it in your mind, how good can I feel, then it becomes more of a safe space to experiment. Maybe how good can I feel means playing with feathers. Maybe it means playing with anal beads. Maybe it means watching porn. Whatever it is that you just ask that question of yourself, okay, what feels safe for me, and what would enhance my experience and enhance my partner's experience, and how can we do that together in a safe space where our consent and our intent are aligned. But that's the main thing, and I would always say, because people often ask, like, oh, how do you spice things up in the bedroom? And they want really extreme answers. You know what I mean? Like, you have to buy costumes, or you got to go and get a massive dildo, or you need to start watching these things, or try anal sex, or go out in public and have sex. And oftentimes it's like not the extreme things. It's really little changes, like try making eye contact, try with the lights on, try different sheets that like bring a different sensation about, try calling each other by name, or try making sounds. Like, it's just small things that can make the experience feel different. And I also think too, like, when you get out of your own head when you're having sex, and you're just like, or when you're sexual period, when you get out of your head of like, how am I supposed to sound, how am I supposed to look, how am I supposed to feel, and you just respond authentically to what's going on, it's going to be a different experience every time. And so it can't get boring if every encounter that you have, you're being authentic in how you feel about it, because we never feel the same way twice. Even if you ate cereal every single day, there's going to be a day where it tastes a little different. The milk's a little sour, maybe the milk's a little sweeter. So I think the same thing with sexuality. We have this idea that we have to go extreme to make it good, but I'm like, nah, I think you just have to be honest.
So no need to visit your local judge, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, if you're at that point, you can. You know what I mean? If you're at that point of like, oh, we need a bathhouse, or like, we got to go on like a swinger vacation, you can. But I just mean, before you get to that point, just don't put the pressure on yourself that it has to be that. It can be something simple as well.
I love that. What's a piece of advice you would give to a woman who wants to say what she wants sexually, but she's a little bit too afraid to?
There's a few things. I like I had a dream. So, you know, like, I had a dream last night that you were doing this, or I was doing that. And then seeing where that conversation goes. Using porn as a tool. There's so much porn out there. Like, mainstream porn I don't think is the best education, but there are feminist porn websites, there are niche porn websites or fetish websites, and so if you don't really know how to put into words what you want, there's always a video example, and that also helps too for people to realize, like, oh, it's not just you, like, other people like this too, and then I might judge you a little bit less. So you can use visual aids, and then also discuss. I like to think of roadmaps for success, which sounds very bizarre, but if you don't feel comfortable making sounds, which some people don't, like, want the pressure of like the moans and all that, maybe it's like verbal cues, like more of that, less of that, I like that. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, maybe you guys make up your own language where it's like, okay, well, when I massage your shoulders, that means I like it. If I tap your back, it means stop. So creating a language where you do feel comfortable to express yourself and your partner understands what the cues mean.
I love that. So, following up, what are your top 3 pieces of sex advice for women?
Honor your orgasm. Like, you know, I think a lot of us, because I don't think orgasm should be the be-all and end-all of sex, but the orgasm gap says that for every 3 orgasms men have, women have 1, which means that we're not prioritizing our bodies, because, you know, we don't need orgasm for sex in the heteronormative way to be complete. We don't need orgasm to get pregnant, and so sometimes it gets thought of as a second-class citizen, and it's not. So if you're going to be engaging in sex for pleasure, then you should prioritize your pleasure. Some people, for example, there's a website called Oh My Gosh Yes, and it describes like 10 different ways that women can achieve orgasm, like orbiting, petting, stroking, consistency, cocktailing, and there's a really cool way to, like, okay, here's the language to describe how I get there, but prioritize, you know, how you do get there. Number 2, you got to feel yourself. And studies show that for women in particular, whenever they feel like sexual phoenixes, when they feel sexy and desired and desirable, not because somebody else makes them feel that way, but they just feel that way themselves, they tend to enjoy more. And so do whatever works for you to feel that way. If you are a heavier woman and you feel uncomfortable, turn the lights out if that makes you get out of your own head. Put on a fishnet bodysuit if that helps you get out of your own head. Yes, you should do other things to get to your ideal place in life, but in the exact moment of having sex, do whatever you have to do so that you feel like the dish. And then 3rd, I would say invite sexuality into your life outside of the bedroom. Whether that is flirting, like light flirting with individuals, whether it is joining classes, or it is just having sexy conversations with your friends. I think that when it's so confined to just the bedroom, we don't get the full benefits of it. Like for me, learning about sex and expressing myself sexually all the time has helped me in every area of my life, and it really hasn't put me in danger or compromised me in any way. So I would encourage more women, even if you are in a relationship or a monogamous partnership, to just find ways that you can still enjoy your sexuality, even aside from having sex.
So you were saying without a partner. You were saying with a partner, but what about without a partner? What are ways women can explore herself sexually?
Same things.
Same things?
Honor your orgasm, do what works for you, and that's a lot of women as well too, and they don't self-pleasure. So make that a priority. Orgasm has ridiculous amounts of health benefits. It makes you look younger. It increases your cardiovascular. It beefs up your immune system. It's just an incredible part of our lives that to ignore it would be silly almost. Like it's like taking a shot of carrot juice, or just having a really healthy shot that you could take that you're not. So I would suggest, self-pleasure, honor your orgasm. 2, when you do that, put yourself in an environment where you feel sexy, and then have moments or situations again where you feel sexy. And then 3rd, enjoy your sexuality outside of a private setting.
Gotcha. So an apple a day and an orgasm a day. You got it.
Yes, I did an orgasm a day challenge once. It was really, really awesome.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon, for talking with Global Glam TV. We loved your answers.
Thank you so much for having me. Have an awesome day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, girl.
Bye.